Hey Cinners, how's everybody doing? Sean here from the Simple Cuts Podcast and Macabre Daily, and I just wanted to take a moment to intro this week's episode. So we have none other than the incomparable Natt Cassidy joining us to talk about Alan Parker's 1987 horror noir masterpiece. I don't use that word lightly. It is a masterpiece, Angel Heart. This is at the pinnacle of Mickey Rourke's sexiness, and it's the ROARKEPOCOLYPSE, the Rourke-assance. Now, unfortunately, it didn't last forever, but nothing ever does. So let's just appreciate the quintessential Mickey Rourke performance that we get here and really enjoy it. And boy, oh boy, does Natt Cassidy unpack the goods on this episode. Where do I start with Natt Cassidy? First and foremost, oh my goodness, what an incredibly nice guy, and so funny, and just a good all-around dude. I mean, easily one of my favorite people now. So Natt Cassidy, big horror heart going out to you there. But this is a man who, I don't know, he must have a time machine because he does so much. Okay, ready for this? He is an accomplished actor of stage and screen. He is an accomplished musician. He is an accomplished playwright. And holy smokes, I mean, Cinners, if you're listening to this podcast, and I hope you are, you know Natt Cassidy because he's written two of the most terrifying novels to hit print in the past couple of years. Let's start with Mary, An Awakening of Terror. Oh, this is when Nat really, everybody was like, who is this young upstart Natt Cassidy? And then Nat goes and he follows it up with Nestlings. Oh my goodness gracious. These are scary novels. They're so well written. They bring the goods. They absolutely bring the goods. But it doesn't stop there. Nat is just this incredibly talented machine of words. And we have on October 15th his novella Rest Stop coming out. I've read it. We've actually already recorded an interview about it, which will drop next week. And just to say that this is a slice of splatter punk nightmare fuel goodness is underselling it, and I'm even embarrassed with those words that came out of my mouth because it doesn't even do it justice. This is a phenomenal novella. It's kinetic and frantic, and it is wet, and I'll leave it there before I go any further and cancel myself. You have to read it. October 15th, it's coming out. And then in April of 2025, I cannot wait for this because you know how I feel about werewolves. Nat's new novel, When the Wolf Comes Home, his take on a werewolf novel. Ooh, that's going to drop. So we have got Natt Cassidy goodness all over the place. It starts now. Nat talking about Angel Heart. Let's get to it. Enjoy.
Hey, Cinners, I'm Shannon.
And I'm Sean.
And this is Sinful Cuts.
Hooray!
Woo! We got a guest with us tonight. Sean, you want to tell us who we have?
Oh, boy, do we have a guest. We have none other than Natt Cassidy. Sinners, you have just heard all of Nat's accolades, all his accomplishments, all the multitude of things that this man has accomplished, and he's still so young and spry. I don't know how he finds the time to do it, and honestly, it's making us feel bad about ourselves.
I didn't realize this was a fictional podcast. That's good enough. If we're going to be dropping lies, then I'll proceed from there.
Well, hold on. All right, now I'm gonna put you on the spot now. All right, so Natt Cassidy is an award-winning actor, playwright, novelist, and director. He's also a musician. Come on. I mean, the only person that gives you a run for your money is Clay McLeod Chapman, because he is Shannon. Who is he?
Clone McLeod Chapman.
Clone McLeod.
So
I'm convinced. Convinced.
He gives you a run for your money. As far as, because I follow you both on Instagram and online, and I see all of the events that you're doing, and Clay's insane, but you're equally insane. But then you branch off and you have all of these other things that you do. You're an insanely accomplished actor. You're an insanely accomplished musician. I mean, I'm doing the math. There's just not enough hours in the day, but I'm so happy that you're squeaking it in because we love everything that you do.
Yeah.
Oh, that is too kind. I would say I'm marginally accomplished at best.
Oh, well,
Not
all right, Shannon, you ready for me to challenge that? Check this out. Okay, so there's just a couple of things I picked up. A superb new voice in horror, Locust Magazine, one of the best horror writers of their generation, Esquire, an emerging genre star, Library Journal.
Yep.
So
I read that too.
I mean, yeah, I know we just got done. We just got done talking about. I hate hearing about my accomplishments, but I had look when it's that bold and it's so evident the talent that you are. We have to point it out. Mary, a novel of awakening terror. Nestlings. Oh, by the way, I was at I got my copy of Nestlings at the Strand the night in October when it was you, Clay, Ernie Adams, Cassandra Cole was the moderator, Rachel Harrison was there. What a night!
Isn't that great? I love it so much. I hope we can do it again.
I hope
that
you
was
guys
so
can
fun.
do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, I'll be front row. But so I got my copy of Nestlings then and there. But then you have When the Wolf Comes Home is coming in April of 2025, and you've got Rest Stop, which is coming October 15th. So I'm listening to Neil McRobert. I'm listening to Talking Scared today. And Adam, I'm going to butcher the name because I want so badly to say Cesar, but it's Caesar, right?
Yes, Adam Caesar. There have been so many pronunciations of his last. I was literally doing an event with him in Doylestown a couple of weekends ago, and I straight up asked him, I was like, how do you say your last name? I've heard it so many ways. And he confirmed. Professionally, it's Caesar.
So,
perfect.
Listening to the podcast, Adam's talking about his work. It's a fantastic discussion. And then they get around to, okay, some new things that you're excited about. And Adam, of course, goes right into Rest Stop. And then Neil, of course, is like, they're doing like an audio high five, like, oh yeah, oh my God, oh, you've got to read this. It's going to fuck you up, in a great way.
That's so nice to hear.
But in case you haven't had a chance to listen to it, it's waiting for you. Talking Scared Podcast, the episode that just dropped Monday. And yeah, they've got a lot of great things to say about it.
I'm literally like halfway through that episode right now. I was listening to it as I was walking home from the train after I listened to some more of your lovely podcast.
Thank you very much.
Right now, Shannon's thinking to herself, because she's my partner and one of my great friends, but I know she's thinking this right now. Oh my God, he better not be lying. Adam better have said that, and Neil better have said it as well.
We're going to record a follow-up episode where I take you to fucking task.
We're going to compare like this or the...
It's bound to happen sooner or later. No, I don't lie. I swear.
You lie! You're a fucking liar!
Can I point out something kind of funny though? That the one thing I loved about your book so far, Nat, is I love the intro, basically where you're just like, trigger warnings. Maybe you shouldn't read this book. Like, I love how you try to like turn people like, just a warning. There's all this horrible shit. And maybe you shouldn't read this.
Thank you. You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that because I am a huge fan of trigger warnings, and I try and have a little fun with my trigger warnings.
Yeah.
Or content warnings, I think, is now the preferred nomenclature. I forget which one is more preferred. But either way, When the Wolf Comes Home is specifically a book about fear and the triggering aspect of fear and the dangers that fear can elicit when they are out of control. Like these like thought spirals and things like that play a big part in it, and like unwanted thoughts. And so in the trigger warning for that, it's like a page long because there's a lot of horrifying things that happen in that book. But some people like rankle at seeing them. They get like very offended, like, well, I don't want to be triggered and stuff like that. So there is a trigger warning for people who are upset about trigger warnings in the trigger warnings for
I love that.
When the Wolf Comes Home. It says
Nice.
if you're upset about trigger warnings, I'll warn you in advance next time.
Nice.
So you don't get upset about it. But I come from the theater, and like that, there's never like a second thought. Like if you're gonna have smog or gunshots or something like that, you warn people ahead of time. So I like to do that in my books.
Yeah,
If there's things you don't want to see.
Exactly. There you go. I love it.
All right.
Plus, I'm a sicko, and I love like seeing like, oh, there's going to be like dismemberment in this. All right, I'm excited.
Nice.
I kind of get excited in a.
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of people do. They're like, okay, this is kind of like, here's my chocolate, here's my peanut butter. Oh my God, they're mixing it up in this one. Well, okay.
Yeah,
You get excited. All right, Nat, I've got to put you on the spot a little bit, and
That's what I'm here for.
I kind of just promised that I wouldn't, but I have to. All right. You, Clay, there's so many authors. Adam, who we just talked about, Neil McRobert, who's publishing his novel and is soon to join. That accolade for you, a rising star in the genre for this generation's horror writers. That's not smoke and mirrors. That's true. You are part of this incredible moment right now, which Shannon and I just got done. We were moderating a horror panel this past weekend, and we were talking about this generation, this incredibly exciting time, and these emerging voices. Yours is one of them. Yours is a definitive one of them. Nestlings, Mary, soon to be When the Wolf Comes Home. And again, this isn't just, oh, you're on the podcast, we're blowing smoke. You've earned the accolades. These are incredible novels. You are part of this movement that's happening. Everyone that was on that panel with you at the Strand, Rachel Harrison, Erin E. Adams, Cassandra, there's so much good literature, horror literature coming out now. It's like, it's almost can't keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a moment in time, and nothing, stay gold, pony boy, nothing can last forever. So we'll enjoy it while we have it. I hope it does last for a good long decade, because it's only 2024.
Right.
But not to put you on the spot, and I don't, I hope it's not an embarrassing question, but I have to know, because I'm very curious. What does it feel like being in the moment when this is happening? What does it feel like?
I mean, I love this question because I talk about it in therapy a lot, actually. Not about like what it feels like for me per se, because as you've just so beautifully put, like there are so many voices that are not just prominent, but like on fire right now. They are absolutely shining. So it doesn't feel like this small little generation happening right now. It really does kind of feel. I mean, the closest analog I kind of liken it to is, it reminds me of like the music scene in the 60s or the film scene in the 70s.
That's
like it's
great.
like you. And like the weird thing is, maybe it's more apropos to compare to the film scene in the 70s. Because the zeitgeist is diffuse enough that I don't know if the marketplace is necessarily going to produce like a Beatles of this, of this metaphor, or like a Stephen King type figure, just because I don't know that certain market realities allow for that sort of concentration to happen anymore, that sort of tip of the spear to happen. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I think it's kind of wonderful that like there are so many, there's a panoply of so many voices and profiles and whatnot. Like and the reason why I bring it up in therapy is just because like that is something I've always wanted to have a small part in. Like I'm a huge music obsessive, even from the theatrical kind of side of things. Like I grew up obsessed with Shakespeare and like would think about the contemporaneous moment that produced Shakespeare and how wonderful that would have been to just be a part of it, to be a Marlowe, to be a Johnson, to be a John Webster. Like I love movements like that, to feel like you're actually like a part of something that fans of the genre decades from hence will kind of look back at this and be like, oh, that was such a great time. I wish I could have been there when these books were coming out, the first time they were coming out. Because I felt that way, like reading all my mass market like horror books that I'm obsessed with, and like, oh my god, I wish I could have read.
Love
like,
that, by the way.
Just a few,
and they continue there and behind the screen as well. And I used to just like walk up and down the aisles of a used bookstore, being like, "Fuck, I wish I could have been there when like The Shining was coming out and Ghost Story was coming out, and Dean Koontz's Watchers was coming out, and Interview with the Vampire were coming. Like, it just felt like this moment, this movement. And it feels like that now, kind of even more so, because, we're in that very fast loop of late stage capitalism right now, and like everyone's trying to put stuff out. Like there's market incentive to have as many books coming out as possible. But I feel like we're up for it at the moment. Like there's a lot of pent up creative sort of gas that is acting as like a really great combustible fuel right now. And I'm right there with you. Like, I hope this can last as long as possible. I think it can. I think those of us who are kind of contributing to this sort of phenomenon, this dynamic or whatever, I think we're savvy enough to at least like know to pace ourselves and to try and there. One of the advantages of there not being as much of a monoculture, as much of a zeitgeist right now, is that like there is, if, say, knock on wood, this doesn't happen, but say like the traditional publishers collapse or retract or something like that, there is a democratized sort of content pipeline now that I think will continue. So like the indie, like I'm doing something with Shortwave right now, which is a very indie press. And it's been phenomenal. And like the work is just as good as traditional publishing. So the ability to self-publish or indie publish, like it's never been easier. So like I'm hopeful that like the high quality will continue, and the high volume will continue, and the diversity will continue. That's, I think, like the most exciting thing is like it's not just like the one bad thing about like a lot of these mass market paperback books is it's all, I'm aware of the irony saying this, but it's all just a bunch of middle-aged white dudes with some rare exceptions. And right now it is quite the opposite of that. There's always room for further improvement. But the diversity of voices that are getting attention right now, I think, is only to the genre's benefit. And it's so exciting to witness, let alone be a part of it. Like I kind of feel like a witness to it most of the time, because writing is, as I'm sure you know, it's a lot of like nose to the grindstone sort of myopia of just like, what the fuck is going on? I don't know. I've read my book 20 times. That's all I know. So like, it's just great to be like a witness to so much great work. Neil just, I'm sorry, this is a very run-on answer, but I'll conclude by saying that Neil just today that we're recording this released his Esquire's best of 2024 so far, and it's fucking great. And I'm like plugged in. I'm very plugged into this as a matter of a professional. But like there were titles that like I hadn't quite heard of, and I was like, oh my god, this is like more stuff on my radar. I'm so excited to like know about these books and stuff like that. So yeah, there's just it's an embarrassment of riches. It's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for all of us. That's my answer. It really is. I'm ashamed of us all.
What a great moment. And to make you feel good, I agree with you. I don't think there's any end in sight. We've Emily Hughes, every week we just crib from her website, Read Jump Scares, and she curates all of the stuff that's coming out. And on a weekly basis, there's so much that we actually can't talk about at all. We pick like 2, 3, 4 novels, collections, and we talk about those, but there's so much. There's just so much good stuff. And it's like, it's blowing the 80s away, because to your point, there wasn't a lot of diversity. There was a lot of great fiction, but there just didn't seem to be a lot of diverse voices. And that's happening now. And it's just crazy. Yeah. It's just so exciting.
It's so exciting. Yeah. We probably should take like a year off as a community, just so like people can like catch up on their reading, because it's a lot to keep up with. But we won't. We won't.
I have to figure out how to do it like after death somehow. That's what I keep saying. I'm like, how do I continue reading?
If you crack that, let me know.
I gotta haunt a library or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out. If you want to come with, I'll let you know.
Gang, I know we're here to talk about Angel Heart, but I don't want to just yet. I have to ask Nat about this. So Shannon and I were talking about your books. We love your books. Okay. So you've said this yourself, but if I'm getting it wrong, just, put the boots to me. So Mary is, you had stated that it's like an homage to Carrie.
Yeah.
And nestlings, I don't know if you said, but I'm going to put it out there that nestlings could be in the same universe of, or in the proximity of Salem's Lot. And I mean that with all of the, this is, I just love this book so much. I'm going to hug it. I'm going to hug it. If people watching on YouTube are like, he is as weird as we think he is. But yes. Okay. So there's the correlation to Salem's Lot. Now, I'm sorry. I want to make sure I've got the title right. Is it When the Wolf Comes Home? Yeah. When the Wolf Comes Home.
It used to be called Wolf at the Door, and that's what I will still occasionally call it. So, yeah, I feel you. Sometimes I'm like, wait, what's the title again? When the Wolf Comes Home. Yeah.
I have to put this out there because we have these Stephen King correlations, and we've got When the Wolf Comes Home, and the only Stephen King werewolf novella is Cycle of the Werewolf. Is there any sort? Oh, I love the eyebrow. I love the look that I'm getting from Natt Cassidy. Okay, maybe I should stop talking. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything. But
no, I will say that I very consciously / luckily was able to kind of have my druthers about my first novel being, while very different from Carrie, being like a wink and a nod to Carrie. Sure. That was something that was very important to me. 'Cause, I mean, I first wrote that book when I was like 13, a very different version of that book, because I was like, I want my first book to kind of be like Carrie. That's the level of Stephen King nerd that I am. So I was really glad I got to honor that, and then have my second book be a wink and a nod to Salem's Lot. That's not unintentional. Things could have happened that would have prevented that from happening, but they happened in the way that they happened, and it's not unintentional. When the Wolf Comes Home has elements of book 3, has elements of The Shining. It is very much a book about dads, and some other things I won't go into. But it also has a lot to do with Firestarter structurally, because When the Wolf Comes Home is very much trying to be a throwback to that kind of action-oriented horror. It's a chase novel. It also borrows a lot from Terminator 2 structurally.
Oh my God, I'm getting dizzy. Oh my God.
Yeah. So there, and it's not without its references to Cycle of the Werewolf as well. Almost because it's hard to write a werewolf or werewolf adjacent novel without, there's so few werewolf novels. There's Cycle of the Werewolf. There's Mongrels. There's Thomas Tessier's Nightwalker. There's a couple others. There's Such Sharp Teeth, which is brilliant. But it's werewolves and vampires feel like they're like siblings on the monster tree, but like vampires have so much literary baggage, and werewolves have much relatively fewer reference points. So you'll probably find some little Cycle of the Werewolves winks in there.
So excited about that. I mean, I'm so excited for the novel. If you had said, nope, not a damn thing to do with it, it's okay. I would still be the first one online buying it, but that's exciting because I just know how much you love Stephen King, and I figured, okay, there's got to be some sort of, little, like you said, a wink and a nod to it. So
a little nod across the hallway of like, I see you.
Do you have a favorite Stephen King novel? I know it's probably not a fair question to ask, but figured I would just throw it out there.
My generic answer is usually It, just because it is longer.
Okay.
It's the same reason I've made this joke before, but it's true. It's the same reason why I will say like the White Album is my favorite Beatles album, just because it has the most Beatles in it. Fair enough. I love the Beatles, so obviously the one that has the most of it is the best. Yeah. And I love monsters and things like that, so like I was always an It guy as opposed to a Stand guy.
Gotcha.
Because it tended to be those two camps as far as like people's favorites. But like the dark horse favorite is usually like Dark Tower 4, Wizard and Glass. I love.
Nice.
I love Black House, which is not one that people tend to talk about a lot, which is the sequel to The Talisman. So that's one of his
deeper cut
Straw books.
Right. Yeah.
I love that book. But I love. I could affirmatively make the case for literally any of them.
Yeah,
Even
mine
though
might
the
be.
ones aren't my favorite, I could tell you like the things about it that are my favorite.
Mine might be a little out of the ordinary because I don't know. Nobody else has my answer either. It's The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon.
I love that book.
I love that book.
That book is so great.
I know.
Fantastic.
And I have a feeling we will never, ever get a movie adaptation, a series, nothing. And this is just my theory, but
Yeah.
if we know Stephen King, and Stephen King, if you're listening, you can confirm or deny, because I know you listen to us. But when that book came out, Tom Gordon got transferred to the Yankees, so
so he's dead.
I have a feeling he considers it a bad luck book, and he's never put any like baseball references, maybe references, but not really like a main character ever again.
Now, this is going to be embarrassing for me. I've never read Stephen King. Good?
Yeah.
He's an up-and-comer. You're going to love him.
Yeah.
If you love the Red Sox, you're going to love him.
This scrappy kid from Maine. Well, you know what? I'm a Mets fan, so, we are kind of, we are united in our hate for the Yankees.
Yeah, you
so
hate the
there
Yankees.
you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Shannon, have you read the pop-up book of The Girl Who Loved Tom?
I did.
That's kind of like the movie adaptation.
Yeah, I know. That's as soon as it came out, I'm like, this is as close as I'm gonna get.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I was
playing
with all the things like I was 5 years old again. It was great. But I thought
great
that was really
audiobook
cool.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I should do that audiobook.
Aish reads it.
Oh,
really good job. Yeah.
Shut up. Oh, I'm reading that tomorrow.
Yeah, you got it.
This is the level of Stephen King nerdery that I bring to a conversation. I apologize, but it'd be a great movie. I can see it happening.
None needed.
Don't you dare apologize when you are on Talking Scared and you and Neil unpack it. Who were you? There was a third. I want to be fair and not forget them. Was it you, Neil?
Ali Malinenko.
Thank you.
Brilliant writer. Brilliant.
But
middle-grade writer.
I know it was audio, but I was like this the whole time. I was like, I just love it. I love it when you guys unpack King. But any spoilers? Or are you going to be talking about anything else with Neil in the near future?
It's very likely. It's very probable.
Okay.
I don't know what I have license to say, so I'll keep demure. But Neil has referenced already that he'll be taking a foray to the Dark Tower universe.
Oh, he did. Oh, yes.
So I could conceivably lend a larynx or two.
That makes me so happy.
And I did. I was one of many voices in his short story deep dive. That was delightful.
Oh, so
that was a
good.
2-parter episode, and we not even just didn't scratch the surface. Like, we didn't fucking disturb the molecules at the top of the surface. There were so many more stories.
But I was fine with that because I know that you guys will be back. So I'm like, good. Okay, this is fine. We'll get into it down the road. And then the episode where you all told stories, real life stories of your scary moments. And then Stephen Graham Jones told the rest stop story about the blood on the floor. And I was like, I might have to jump out of the car right now while it's moving. Yeah. So anyway,
merge without looking.
Disturbing.
We love nothing better on our podcast than to tell people to listen to other podcasts. It's all one big community. It's all about horror.
Yeah.
And having
we gotta share the love. We love sharing the love.
That's right.
Exactly.
There's a lot of hours in the day to listen.
Should we talk about the movie?
Yeah, we have to get to Angel.
Were we supposed to have covered something? I forget.
Natt, I knew when we finally got you in that chair, I knew this was going to happen because you're so damn interesting and you have so many stories because you may be cloned like Clay. You do so many damn things that I just knew we were going to get on a roll. But we're having you back, so we'll just continue with that. So, Sinners, tonight we are talking about 1987, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, 1987's Angel Heart. Alan Parker, Mickey Rourke. We're kind of in the late stage. He didn't know it at the time, nor did we. We're kind of in the late stage of the Rourke-assance,
Yeah.
which unfortunately was going to come to a close. Let's call it maybe 1991 with Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. Probably that was maybe the death knell. But we are in peak Rourke right now, and this movie. I love this movie. I know Shannon loves this movie, and you chose this movie, Natt. So I have to think that you love it, but maybe not, though. Maybe I shouldn't assume. I gave you the list of movies to choose from. Why Angel Heart?
I adore this movie. And I've seen it 4 times, 5 times, somewhere around there. And every time I rewatch it, I forget just how much I love it. It's not without its flaws. It's not without its problematic areas. Same with the book. The book is also like a favorite of mine. Its shortcomings notwithstanding. It's a phenomenal book, and just an exquisite marriage of the noir and the horror, in a way I don't think has ever been done as seamlessly before or since. Like, it is just such a perfect noir story. It's such a perfect horror story. And this adaptation, even though it removes some of my favorite elements of the book, primarily being that it is a New York horror story, and it is just like, it's so detail oriented, so authentic. I don't know if either of you have read the book, but like it's
Not yet.
so New York. Like, it's down to like where the Hippodrome is, and like all these intersections, and like literal addresses that are still there. And it's very, and even beyond the New York details, like, it's just very realism centric, which makes the fantastical things like hit that much harder. And so the movie obviously like moves to New Orleans about halfway through, and moves all these set pieces that were New York set pieces in the book, and that was part of their fun as someone who lives there. But so even taking that element that I love so much out of the story, like, it's just so artfully done. It's so exquisitely acted. Like, I feel like we're just gonna like go into spoilers, right?
Oh, hell yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
spoiler territory. Yep.
if you don't know Angel Heart, A, why are you listening to this? And B, gird yourself.
Exactly.
Because I have to kind of to talk about just what I love about this movie so much. I have to bring up the devil in the room, which is Robert De Niro, and it is such a delicious counterpoint to Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate. Like, they are polar opposites of how you approach playing Satan. And that's another thing that I kind of forget until like I watch it again, because in my head in my memories it's so pulpy, it's so grimy, and like, oh my god, it's De Niro playing the devil, like, of course. But then you watch it and you're like, oh my god, he's pulling so back. He's not doing much, but he's oozing menace. And you rarely see the devil as menacing. You usually see him as, more in the Pacino mold of like, I'm the devil. I love being the devil. Oh boy, I'm gonna get you.
Yeah.
And like Pacino's like, or De Niro's like legitimately intimidating.
Yeah, he's
Like,
not playful at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's downright like uncomfortable how intense he's like. The twist at the end is, in both the book and in the movie, is almost insultingly obvious. Like, there is an element to it of like, really? You got like in the book, that initial meeting where they like sit down and he gets the assignment from Louis Cypher. It even takes place in 666 Madison Avenue, and you're just like, you expect us to just like be surprised when this happens? And I have thoughts on that as we get further into the discussion. But in the context of De Niro's performance, you can just tell how fucking pissed off he is to be chasing this guy down anyway, to be having this conversation, to be forestalling this twist because the twist is obvious, and like it lends this almost meta performative quality to it, where he's like all of us, of just like waiting for Mickey Rourke to catch up.
Yeah.
It's not so much like we got a big surprise coming. It's more like,
Yeah. It's like
you know
chasing
what you're doing.
it's like chasing like a cheating partner when like you don't
Yeah.
really want to believe it, but you want them to either throw themselves under the bus, or
Yeah.
you want to catch them red-handed, even
Yeah.
but like all the signs are there.
Right. And
Yeah.
they start lying to you, and it's like, okay,
Like,
you're gonna do it this way. All right. And it's like he's just like smoldering. It's
Yeah.
so great.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't even know where to start because there's so much to talk about with the film. I think I want to start with Parker. The look of the film, the feel of the film. What I love about Angel Heart is that if you twist the dial 2 notches to the right, it could easily be a period drama.
Mm-hmm.
You know, take all the devil elements out of it, the horror elements out of it. It could be a period drama. You twist it to the left, it could be diner. You know, we could have a period comedy. The look is, I just like, it washes over your eyes, the look of this film. It's so gorgeous to look at in its griminess and realness. Everything feels lived in. I mean, especially Mickey Rourke. He feels especially lived in, you know? But I agree with you. I mean, I wish that they had stayed in the New York locations because, you know, we are New Yorkers. I mean, you know, Shannon and I grew up here. We would have loved to have seen all of those locations because the location shoots in the movie, in the New York section of the movie, they are so real. And they are, like I said, they're so lived in. But it's also like, I love the fact that Parker kept the the randomness and there's nothing special about where the devil is. Like he's introduced in a back room in this building in Harlem, and he's sitting in a chair, his throne that's elevated about 6 inches off the ground. There's nothing remarkable. The next scene, he's in a restaurant, he's eating his hard-boiled egg. It's just a typical, I mean, it's damn near an automat, you know? It's nothing special about it. And I love that he keeps that and doesn't, he doesn't, there's nothing fanciful about it. There's nothing ornate about it. And it rings true. I mean, it rings true in the novel, but it rings true in the film as well. But I want to commend Alan Parker because he stuck to it. Like, you know, he had the vision, he took it off the page and he stuck with it, which there's so many examples of filmmakers that have the raw material right there and then they just go to 11 with it, you know?
Yeah.
And it kills the film, you know, or at least it kills the adaptation.
What was interesting about... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to get your take on the look of the film, the feel of the film. How did you guys feel about it?
I was just gonna say, look, to your point, like, just like off of Parker, like if you ever listen to the commentary for the film, he's very nonchalant about all of it, like just kind of like, no, this is just a random, like, I was wondering if that was like really on purpose or like, no, like, did you already have like a gem in your hands and you just knew how to execute it? Because like he even, okay, so let's just say, okay, big spoiler alert here, but a lot of people talk about the Lady in Black. You know, the mysterious cat. Who is she? What does she do? Blah, blah, blah. You know, is she, you know, we'll get into her more in a second. But then like he passes, Harry Angel passes by after, I think, Epiphany's death, right? That scene. And, and then you clearly see Robert De Niro's face. He literally just chalks it up in that moment, go, yeah, that's De Niro in drag right there.
Yeah.
That's all. That's it. That's all you get. There's nothing like, poetic or anything about it. Yet there's so many videos of people analyzing this shit out of this film. I'm like, there has to be something more to it that he put into it. But I also wonder if he was a little let off because obviously getting this movie out there, once it finally wrapped, the MPA organization, really put a damper on it. And then by the time this film came out, it went up against, hold on, I have it written down. It went up against Lethal Weapon, Platoon, and Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Yeah, okay.
Like it almost
Okay.
like by the time it finally got there, like it almost like didn't stand a chance. And then I feel like people were either not ready for it, and just, you know, again, compared to the other three films, they were kind of like, what is this? And, you know, I don't know, who knows, you know, I mean, cocaine back then, you know, people really aren't paying attention to how complex this film is. But when you really break it down, you know, I was a little upset to hear that Parker kind of sold it short, but I was wondering if by the time he did the commentary, maybe he was just a little put off because he got so much pushback.
It was a looked at as a commercial failure.
Yeah.
Which, it's so hard to pull off what he pulls off, and one of the reasons why it's hard to pull off is because the audience, especially then, like, wasn't necessarily receptive to a mashup like that. Like, I think there were also people that were like, wait, I thought this was going to be a noir movie and it's got the devil in it. And horror fans were probably like, I thought this was going to be, you know, I could go fucking see Nightmare 3 right now. I could see Dream Warriors. And this is like a slow burn, artistic, like, you know, someone dies, but it's cross-cut with like a kid tap dancing in a puddle. Like, it's like, what is this? Like, it didn't really find its audience until home video. And I think in part, kind of like the way it always hits me in my memory is you really do, even if you've seen it, think it's going to be the dumber version that you're imagining. And it's so smart. It's so artfully done. It's beautifully shot. The cinematography is jaw-dropping. The fucking, like, the establishing shot of Coney Island with him like walking down the beach, or the shot of the woman in the waves, is like, these are like Hopper paintings.
Yes,
gorgeous.
Yes,
and like the way the bayou is treated, the way the racetrack is treated, like, it's just every shot, every frame a painting. But like, literally, it looks gorgeous, and it's following, if I have the chronology right in my memory, it almost forms a sort of like unofficial trilogy with The Wall, and then Birdie, and then this, which are three very different movies, but they're all incredibly artsy with like a capital A. They're very avant-garde in their way, despite being, you know, differing levels of narratively cohesive. And they all deal with like war trauma. They all deal with PTSD. You know, two of them are World War II. One of them is Vietnam. But they're also just like baffling movies. And I think baffling movies are really hard to sell. Because, like, you know, studios don't know what to do with, how do you market this? How do you market a Mickey Rourke movie where he's pathetic in it?
Yes.
Like, he's not like Mickey Rourke. He's a fucking whiny. He starts out like really machismo and you know, this great sort of gumshoe, but like by the end he's a sobbing, pathetic little mess. And like, and if, you know, what's the appeal for that?
If you see the whole picture, I actually like at least my theories anyway. I don't know, everyone may have a different one, but I think he was also like a piece of shit. Like, I don't think he was a good person
very much so.
to begin with, like, at all. So it's just like, like, come and see this piece of shit. Get owned
and De
by
Niro's
the
going to be the
devil.
devil, but he's only in it for like 5 minutes. It's such a
This film was doomed to a certain extent because you had the Lisa Bonet, you know, of it all, with her being on the Cosby Show, and then, you know, she's trying to break out, and then, you know, this sex scene, and America lost its collective mind. I don't know why. You know, France was like, what? But it was that, and then Mickey Rourke's coming off of 9.5 weeks, so he is like ultra sexy Mickey Rourke. And then people went into this film and they were like, I can literally smell him coming off the screen. And I just think, you know, I love the bold choice that he made, and maybe it was very purposeful that he wanted to, you know, differentiate himself from what he had just done. And he really did. He certainly
He's
did.
phenomenal in this too, by the way. Like,
It's my
is
favorite
a-
Mickey Rourke
it
performance.
is fantastic. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great.
He makes choices in this movie that are so they're they're not choices that a Hollywood movie star makes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he really does. He just scuzzies himself up. He spends an enormous amount of screen time with the sun protector over his nose.
Fucking screen.
Which, you know, his people were like, can we get that removed? Can we please get that removed? You know, he just makes a lot of these great, you know, non-movie star choices, which I think
Yeah.
really make this a special Mickey Rourke film because of where he then would, you know, it's unfortunate that we really just have this short period of time of incredible performances from him. You know, I mean, Mickey Rourke's not dead. You know, I don't want to make it sound like that, but he's just doing different things now that, you know, unfortunately aren't on the same level. But this is just a really great time for him. And he makes this bold choice and it lands. It didn't land commercially, but it does land for us.
It's a perfect, for what it is a perfect movie.
I agree.
And it's fascinating. Like, I imagine you found this in your research too, that Robert Redford really wanted to make this. Like, he was the one championing it from the get-go and had like 2 scripts that were both rejected by the studio. And the idea of Robert Redford pulling this off. Robert Redford's great. No shade against Robert Redford. But like, would Robert Redford be this sweaty, this dirty?
Don't know.
I mean, it's also like easy to forget. This movie takes place in the winter. And yet everyone's just like sweating. It's just like so humid and gross. And there's snow on the ground, but we're still just like, just schwitzing up a storm. And like, yeah, like this story does not need Robert Redford. It needed Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
And yeah, he does just gorgeous work in this, playing an asshole. It's so hard to do. And yet he's charming. You're compelled by him. And one of the reasons why I kind of think that maybe in, you know, whatever degree of shooting from the hip Parker was doing, the speed with which Rourke / Harry Angel breaks down in that scene where we put all the pieces together, and you find out, you know, what happened to Johnny Favorite. He like immediately is like, oh my God, who is the soldier? Who was it? Who was it? Like he has known it has been him from the get-go, and he's just been trying to deny it. And like he pulls it off beautifully. Like just
So
becomes
great.
this sniveling baby, this broken, pathetic thing. It's fantastic.
I agree.
It doesn't get mentioned nearly enough for that for the 80s, for horror movies of the 80s, because we talk about it incessantly on our podcast. We're always going back to the 80s, but it's typically like, you know, we're talking about Fright Night and American Werewolf and you know, the Blob remake, and those are all fantastic. But this really does deserve a shining light on it because it's so intricate. It, like to your point, it takes its time. You know, there are certainly examples of films during the 80s, horror films during the 80s, that took its time. I don't want to make it all sound like it was just practical effect bonanzas, but this is probably the best example of a horror movie that is not, even though Harry Angel's in a rush, this movie is not in a rush. And that the payoff, it's just so much sweeter because of it. I wish there were more movies like that. Oh boy, I sound like, you know, old man screaming at the clouds. But I do wish there were more movies.
No, but there is a direct linear pipeline from here to Jacob's Ladder to In the Mouth of Madness to A24. Like Memento. This is like the A24 model. Yeah, Memento too.
Yeah.
But like if you look at like the A24 kind of mode of horror movies, it's a slow burn. It's about trauma. It has a bananas third act where, like, you know, all these supernatural things start happening, and that's exactly this. Like it's war trauma. It's a slow burn. By Act 3, it's suddenly just like unreliable narrator, bodies piling up, and Robert De Niro turns out to have been the woman all along.
De Niro and drag.
Yeah.
Matt, I've got to put this on your radar because as I was just saying it, that we don't get this anymore, in my mind, I'm like, you are a lying liar face, because we do. There's a movie from the director of Caveat called Oddity that just came out not that
Oh, I
long
want to see
ago.
that so bad. With the mannequin. Oh,
Yeah.
so bad.
It's, you know, we've got a lot of time left on the clock for 2024, and I feel like it's been a great year for smaller horror.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been a great year for horror in general, but smaller horror. But this is just like the cherry on top of the cake. It's so good. I saw it in the theater. It doesn't need to be. You don't have to see it in a theater, but if you can,
Yeah.
you know, check it out. But yeah, like Caveat and Oddity, like a back to back, because they're just, you know, on a minuscule level, they are kind of intertwined. They're so good, and it takes its time. You know, this is exactly what I was just saying we don't get any more of, and I proved myself a liar. It was right there the whole time. But yeah, go check that one out, and it's just dripping with craft. It's just so well directed and so well acted. I mean, there are almost parts of it that are like a stage play, which I don't know.
Ooh.
Maybe that's right up your alley.
I'm known to see a play or two.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like we don't get them anymore, but like pretty much like the movies themselves, I feel like they take their time coming out because I feel like they take
Good
time
point.
to perfect.
Hmm.
And you know, and maybe, you know, I know, you know, studios aren't all about, you know, taking time with anything. They're like, get it out, give me my money back, you know, type of a thing. So I get that. You know, I don't really know that aspect of, you know, the business, but that's at least that's what I've noticed anyway. Like a good movie that wants to be very very artsy and tell a story with a lot of visuals, and maybe they don't necessarily make sense in the moment, but
Hmm.
you know, like like one that I saw recently, and I'm still trying to unpack exactly how I feel, because I could appreciate it, but I feel like it didn't land with me. That's kind of where, so I'm still in the middle. Is I saw the TV Glow.
Oh,
Um, so I'm still like in the middle because at first I was like, what? You know,
Yeah.
and then, but then, you know, like as it festers, you know, much like this movie again, that with the first time I saw this one, I was like, so who is he? What happened? Same thing happened with Jacob's Ladder. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so is he dead? Like, it was like, you know, so I did all of that. Like at first, like it kind of went like, wait, and then you let it fester, and then you start realizing all the visuals and you piece it together, maybe in a different chronological order than what you actually saw, and
Yeah.
you start playing it again in your own mind, and you're like, wait a second, and then it hits you. So it
Yeah.
has to hit you later, which is, it's in a way it's very frustrating, obviously, because it's just like, you know, you want to like these movies, but then after a while you're like, you know, a second or third rewatch, you're just like, no, that's probably one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a real phenomenon right now in like the past like decade or so, especially like the past like 5 years or so, of like very vibes based horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
we were
Where
just
like
talking
it's-
about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's, you know, like even like the Skinamarink or Outwaters and things like that, where
Yeah.
like you watch it and sometimes you're like, what? Or is there like a movie that's going to happen at some point? And it's very dreamlike. It's very
That's
vibes based.
That's
And
what
then
I
like,
said. That's what I said
and then
about
like,
Skinamarink. I'm like, is
yeah.
it gonna happen? I said, what do I watch?
I had a specifically with Skinamarink, I watched it, and about halfway through, I was like, I'm gonna try something, and I pulled up Wikipedia, and I just read the synopsis of the plot
Oh, okay.
while I was watching it, and then I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense, and actually,
okay.
I love this movie, because yeah, for like the unaided, I was like, nothing is connecting with me. I want to look at my phone during this movie.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then
ashamed
once
to say it. I fell asleep because it was so quiet and peaceful.
it's very lulling. It's very soporific.
If it
But
soothes
I
me right to sleep.
yeah, like being a kid again.
I've been meaning to go back to it.
Like the point that you had just made though, like when you do revisit them or when you just like think about them after the fact, there are some vibes based horror movies of recent years that suddenly became like a favorite of the years that they came out, just in
Yeah.
retrospect. And like there is something about that dreamlike quality to them that like in the moment it is kind of frustrating or you get impatient, but then like the moments that they really want to land with you, you realize, oh my god, they Saint Maud I thought was a fascinating movie because it kind of it followed a very similar, and Censor was another one, but Saint Maud in particular, I reference because like I've never had a movie frustrate me for 99.999% of it, and then within the final second, like it was that final split of that like literal frame at the end where I was like, I love this movie. This was everything I wanted. Oh my
I
god,
love those.
It sticks the landing.
Yeah,
I love those actually.
it was amazing, and like everything that had frustrated me up until that point, now I love because it was in service of that.
Yeah.
And there were some like in Outwaters, that was a movie that I was just like, okay, come on, and then like an image would suddenly happen, and I was like, oh, that's why we were doing this. Okay, like now I love this. I love this so much. So that's great, and I think like to an extent, I feel like Angel Heart is much more plot oriented than those.
Yeah.
But there are definitely moments where you're like, why are we getting this artsy fartsy with my noir horror movie? And then you reach a certain culmination and you're like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
Like those were all in service to this mood, this feeling of being doomed, like the nihilism of this movie, the existentialism of this movie.
Oh, it's so delicious.
The fact that like it does something I don't think I've ever seen in a movie of its era, like as you were saying, Sean, like there's something very un-80s about this 80s movie.
Yeah.
The ending credits with the elevator ride, like that's so like 90s indie, and it's so fascinating to watch play out in this mid 80s kind of attempt at a blockbuster.
Right?
Yeah. It genuinely wanted to cut
fascinating.
deeper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Parker is fascinating. I mean, he just jumps all over the place. He's ahead of his time with this movie. But I mean, like, you said he directed The Wall and Birdie, Mississippi Burning, Bugsy Malone. Like he's jumping. There's definitely a theme that you can follow and some genres that you can certainly follow. But he's just kind of like, he's a little bit all over the place in the best way possible, But this movie does not belong in 1987 in any way. It really is like, okay, we're in the early 90s, we're in the indie scene, and this is someone who's just swinging for it. Because he's not doing anything that the studio system is doing at the time. I mean, Jesus, this movie opened up against Lethal Weapon. And not disparaging Lethal Weapon, but it's just these films could not be further apart in the way they're
color
directed.
palette alone is like, it's so saturated and crisp.
Oh.
There's no like neon, there's no glow, there's none of that suffused like Michael Mann sort of feel that Lethal Weapon is like has in spades. Like it looks like it was shot for like Sundance. Like it is so 90s indie.
Yeah. Way ahead of its time.
I love everything about it. And I do want to champion it because like I said, I don't think it gets enough credit. But, besides Parker making really bold choices and Redford, wanting to be attached to it, which is interesting. But I love that we have, that we've got Rourke there. The film itself, there's not, we've got the twist at the end, which everybody saw coming. Maybe. I mean, maybe when I was a kid and I saw it, I was like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
But, besides that, there's not a whole hell of a lot to unpack from the film. I mean, it's just right there. We've got, it is a noir movie. It is a horror movie. It's this great mashup of the two. But what I want to talk about next is, okay, was this the start of, I should correct myself. It wasn't the start of, but when this film found an audience, did this kind of begin a renaissance of the devil made me do it movies? Like, or I did it, I sold my soul to the devil, because we do have a pretty good got a pretty good line of devil movies that came out and are still coming out to this day. I mean, look at Late Night with the Devil. You got to put that in. This is in the subgenre of I Sold My Soul.
Yeah.
What are your favorites besides this film? What are your favorite I Sold My Soul or devil themed movies?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
I mean, I will always have a soft spot for The Devil's Advocate. That movie is
saved.
It is the opposite side of quality from this one.
But it's good junky candy.
Oh my god, it's so dumb. I love it. And Pacino's just Pacinoing it up. God is an absentee landlord. He's just fucking chewing the scenery.
Oh wait, but Nat, that lends itself to a lot of the devil movies that we have. There are not very many that are on the caliber of Angel Heart. My devil movies skew in the opposite direction so hard you'll get whiplash. I mean, Race with the Devil, Brotherhood of Satan, The Devil's Reign with Ernest Borgnine.
Fucking deep pull.
You want deep pulls? I mean, Jesus, there was a plethora of made-for-TV movies during the 70s. I mean, we were heavy into the devil was around every corner. The devil was in your living room, Yeah. And I just love all of that. But yeah, my devil stuff kind of skews toward the junky. I don't know if that's on purpose. It very much is. But it just happens to be.
He says in front of a Planet of the Vampires poster.
Guilty as charged. Yeah, guilty as charged. But there's so many good junky devil movies that it's hard not to just trip all over them.
Yeah, mine may have to be Rosemary's Baby.
Oh boy! Oh, there you go, knocking out of the park with class.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fucking good one.
Yeah,
it's
a good one.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, all right. What are your feelings on The Omen? Are we junky or are we classy? Because that is one of my favorite horror films of all time. But I think it has a foot in both camps.
Okay, original classy, remake junky.
Okay. All right, but I think the original has some junky elements which I absolutely adore.
Okay.
It gets a little bit pulpy. It gets there's definitely some gore there. There's enough there to satisfy like the horror nerd, and there's enough there to satisfy the pretentious horror moviegoer, which I can be both at times.
There you go.
I'm gonna be controversial. Or maybe snobbish and say that The Omen is all junk. I think The Omen is such a junky movie. I love it.
Fair.
But it is proto Final Destination. Like that is the whole appeal. Like the story is so fucking dumb. But like you're just watching because you're like, I want to see David Warner get his head chopped off by glass plate. Or I want to see a spear fall through a priest. Like that whole franchise. 2, 3, fast forward through the plot. It's so dumb. Just like get to the kills.
Just want the kills.
Yeah. And I really liked the new one that came out, the first Omen, but the kills were so boring. Like it was trying to be artsy, and it was like this is what a not junky Omen movie looks like. It's just trying to be like Possession, and it's like it's good. I enjoyed my time, but like I wanted. The Rube Goldberg death machine.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
And it starts out that way. It literally starts out that way with Charles Dance getting his, half his cranium cord out. And you're like, here we go.
Here we go.
And then I love the look of it. It was so highly stylized, but you're right. I'm like, we came here for the kills. We came here for the Rube Goldberg, and it just didn't happen. But hey, look, no offense taken. It is junky as hell. How many times can Gregory Peck say square-jawedly, I don't believe what's happening?
I don't believe
that guy got a pull through him. You almost got eaten by dogs. There's a jackal in that grave,
Yeah.
Yep.
And then he catches on a nanosecond too late.
Yes.
It's such a fun goddamn, and I love 2 also. I have such a soft spot.
Oh hell
for 2.
yeah. Oh, because 2 knows what it is. 2 is
Yeah.
like, oh, this is what people are coming for.
Yeah.
We're gonna double and triple the body count in this one.
Yeah.
And they go for it. Yeah, it's really good.
And 3 has great moments. Sam Neill is great. I love a Sam Neill horror movie. It's just a little mid as a movie.
Agreed.
No
Agreed.
offense.
That's
Omen
okay.
free.
But yeah,
They forgive you.
we may be due for a really good, devil noir mashup. It might be enough time has passed that we, let's see what we've got here. We're putting it out there. We're putting it out to you, Mr. Cassidy.
I have, because, as a Stephen King obsessive, there's always been a part of me that's like, what would my Dark Tower be? And ever since I was a little kid, I have had like a story or a character in mind that would be, if like the Dark Tower is like Western styled motif, I was like, this would probably be much more of like a Private Eye noir sort of pastiche. But I've yet to ever like pursue it, because I also feel like I've encountered like just enough kind of cheesy noir horror where I'm just like, oh, I don't care for these characters. So like I've been like a little reticent to attempt it. But like there still is something in there that I'm like, I have a noir horror.
There's a little spark.
Sort of vibe.
Yeah, there's a little spark.
I might nurture it one of these days.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe.
All right.
Maybe
I like
not.
the sound of that.
When it's his time. When it's his time.
Exactly.
Or
Exactly.
hers.
It's a character that I love.
I don't know who the character
Like I
is.
hope I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Ooh.
now that you let the cat out of the bag, we're going to bug you about it every time we see you. So you're gonna
Did you write it
Keep
yet?
me honest. That's what I need.
write it yet? Did you write it yet? Did you write it yet?
Guys, it's been 2 months. No, I haven't written it yet. I'm
All
on
right.
deadline for something else.
At this part of the podcast, because I think we did Angel Heart justice. We all love it. Mickey
We all
Rourke
approve.
kisses all over your unfortunately your devil face.
Oh, I have one question for you though,
Of course.
because I decided to relook at the Wikipedia entry because I was just like, let's refresh. I haven't watched Angel Heart since Friday, so let's make sure I remember everything. The Wikipedia synopsis, I think it was the Wikipedia synopsis, says or intimates that the baby at the end has the thriller eyes that is supposed to be read as, oh, that's the devil's child, that Lisa Bonet gave birth to the devil's child.
Yes.
I just took it as Mickey Rourke, like, having more of his surreal, like, or just being taunted by the devil. That the kid is just the kid. The kid is just her kid. But when I read that in Wikipedia, I was like, is that what other people think? That this baby is like...
A lot of people absolutely think that because Epiphany, mentions that her son's 3 years old, doesn't know or remember who the father is, like, at all. Some people can chalk it up to, not that I want to put too much of a spin on voodoo, because it's not really the serpent and the rainbow too much here. This is more literally just more more Harry and his demons.
It's one.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Nailed that. But that's what that visual. That's how people see it. I've watched a couple of videos or video essays, if you will, and that was a common theme actually, that people think that. Yeah.
That is interesting because I did that. Just I didn't get that one.
I didn't get that one right away either. I chalked it up to that's just
it happened so quickly after the Robert De Niro and the woman's veil. Anyway, like it just happened so quickly after that like it. You just, I think you naturally kind of read it as just like, oh, he's just being tormented. Yeah, but it's the kid's face this time with the eyes. So
now I'm gonna have to rewatch it, which is not a bad thing. Oh, by the way, shoot! By the time this posts, it'll be over. It's playing tomorrow night at BAM Rose Cinema in Brooklyn.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Right. I know. So this is the point of the podcast where we ask you 3 silly questions. They're harmless enough, but we have to know. All right. So
Social security number.
Yeah.
Bank account. Mother's maiden name.
And can we sleep over?
Slumber party.
You want to come to Astoria?
Great
You
town.
just hop on the LIE, take that right to the BQE, bing, bang, boom.
Yep.
Great town. Nothing but Queens love. Fuck Donald Trump. He's the worst thing about Queens, but you
Right.
get nothing but Queens
That's
love. Okay. So the first question is, what is the scariest movie you've ever seen?
We'll talk about this when I'm on next, because
Okay.
I'm a massive foreign horror obsessive. Like that's my favorite.
Love hearing that.
That's my favorite subgenre, if you want to call it that. So I'm tempted to pull one of those titles, but I'm going to be honest and say the two that really come to mind, because if you've ever listened to me answer a question, you know I will never give one answer. I will always give at least two.
We count on it.
At heart. I will never choose one thing. The two movies that scared me the most, I think, as an adult, as a cognizant viewer of story, were Candyman and The Ring, but not Ringu, not the Japanese original, but the Gore Verbinski remake of The Ring.
Right.
Okay.
Those both stuck with me, and if you want me to expostulate more, I can tell you why. There is
Please.
I think as a hardened, calloused horror movie viewer, everyone has their own little weaknesses and stuff like that. But for the most part, I think we all get very used to the tropes. We get used to the rhythm. We get used to like the agreement that an audience member has with a horror movie of like, I know what I'm in for, more or less. And so it gets harder and harder to actually like be surprised, be scared. So one of the reasons why I love foreign horror so much, and I loved your conversation about When Evil Lurks with Clay, 'cause that's also Damien Rigno is one of my favorite filmmakers around right now. And there is something great about watching another culture's anxieties and having less of a bulwark against them already. Like you have less cultural rhythmic foreknowledge of what you're in for. But the reason why I think these two very American movies have worked on me is because ultimately every horror movie is about a sin. You know, that's kind of one of the things they all have in common. And it's like, what is the sin? And then what is the payback for the sin? The sin in Candyman and in The Ring, the transaction that signs you up for doom, the audience is complicit in a way that you don't get with other movies. Like, I'm not going to sell my soul to the devil, so this movie's not ultimately very scary for me because I'm not going to be in that position. I'm not going to go to Crystal Lake, so it's not ultimately going to be scary for me. I'm not going to go to space and meet a xenomorph, so like I'll get like a superficial thrill out of it, but it's not going to be like that scary to me. But I have a mirror, and I watched the tape. You show me the fucking tape, Gore Verbinski. So like I'm fucked. When The Ring came out, I for 7 days was terrified that I was going to die. I thought I was cursed. I had to keep reminding myself there was craft services on that movie. There was a call sheet on that movie. Like there were union members on that movie. No one died. It was a movie. And I was literally doing a production of Chekhov's The Three Sisters on the 7th day. And it was in the round. It was a production in the round. And I was playing Tusenbach, and I was very miserable and Chekhovian. And I looked out into the audience, and there was a woman with long black hair, probably asleep because it was Chekhov. And so her hair was in front of her face. And I almost forgot my lines. I was so terrified.
You're like, it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die in the fucking set of Three Sisters. I'm never going to get to Moscow. It was terrifying. God. And anytime I look into a mirror, like there's just that feeling of like, I could call Candyman forth right now. I could do it.
And you almost feel compelled to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that death drive. It's that Freudian death drive, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so those two movies, anytime a movie can make me feel like I can perform that sin, I can become complicit in the terror, that's when it's lasting for me.
I love it. Hey, I'm so excited to hear about
Love
what the
that.
foreign movies are, but we'll wait. But we'll wait for that one. But those are great choices because it's true. You are complicit in it. It could happen. It could
Yeah.
absolutely. I would watch the tape. I would do
Yeah.
it. You know,
I still, to this day, whenever I watch The Ring or a Ring-related property, I avert my eyes when the tape is playing. I know
don't blame you.
I know all the iconography, I know the imagery, like I know what I'm missing, but I'm like, I'm not fucking watching that thing.
It's
I
like
do
the,
not blame you.
Case.
it's like the comedy. Remember Scary Movie 3? Did
Yeah.
you see that?
Yeah,
Like, it's
well,
like, they have
the
it on the
best one.
news. This is what's happening, and we're going to show it all night long
Yeah.
for everybody. So they're just advertising it. And I remember like watching that for the first time, and I'm like, that is absolutely what we would do. We would
Yeah.
absolutely. Actually, they did do that. They did. Remember when the Ring, right before the Ring came out? I remember some news.
Yeah.
Who knows? 12, 5, 9. I don't remember which one you were, but either. But they were like, "Oh, so we got sneak preview of the
Mhm.
of the tape."
Yeah. Yeah.
I just
And
remember.
I
No
still have
bueno.
my VHS copy of The Ring because I was like,
Oh my God,
if I'm going to
why?
hang on to any VHS, you got to have this.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Good point.
Yeah.
gonna make sure it's safe and sound. All right, Shannon. What's our second question?
I don't know what is it.
Oh, jeez. All right.
I just got scared. No, wait, is it the one? Not the remake one. That's a third one.
No,
Is it the remake one?
what's a movie you would defend to the death that other people think is pretty fun?
Yes. Okay. So a movie that typically
Hmm.
everybody hates that you would defend to the death, but you love it.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I have the sort of mind that goes immediately blank whenever I'm asked a question like this. Like, what is a movie? Have I ever seen a movie?
What is a
What is a
play?
movie?
What is music?
Yeah.
What is art?
Who am I? Read me back my bio. No, please don't. Whatever you do, don't do that. Movie that someone hates. Oh, I know there's been some recently.
Ooh.
You said remake, and this reminded me.
Oh.
The new Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Okay.
from like
Which one? There have been
the newest one. What was it, like
Okay.
2020, 2021 or something like that?
With the sisters, they went to like the town that they're trying to
The town that
reprise.
like the
Oh.
influences are buying and stuff like that.
Okay.
I love that movie.
Okay.
I thought it was fucking fantastic. I think it is so smart. I think it is a parody of Final Girl Strikes Back, you know, like the
Mhm.
Halloweens that came out. Because the way, what is it, Marilyn Chambers? I think that's her name. That's what my brain is telling me anyway. But when or is Marilyn Chambers an adult actress from like the 70s? I don't remember. But whenever the actor from the original Texas Chainsaw, when she comes and she's the grizzled, hardened, like Leatherface
like,
hunter,
yeah.
like that is tongue in cheek. Like she gets dispatched so easily
So
that
quickly.
can't not be tongue in cheek of like kind of making fun of the Laurie Strode like evil dies tonight sort of vibe. And I think it is I think it is such a delightful, funny, smart way to approach a remake, to just kind of like take all the tropes that had been firmly established for the reboot kind of dynamic by that point and just play them a little satirically. And I don't think people read it as a satire, because I think it is a light satire.
Yeah,
and I think they read it as I think they
went
read it as like a genuine attempt at making a reboot. And it was like, what the fuck is the point of this? But I loved it. I thought it was so smart.
Yeah, a lot of deaths in that
great
one. That was
answer.
fun. Yeah.
And then the third one is, and you feel free to say I would never do it because every film is its own film and I would never remake anything. But if you could remake something, what would you horror movie? What would you like to see remade?
I feel like I had a good answer for this once, and I'm trying to remember what it was in a way that doesn't require you to edit so much dead air.
Sean does all the editing, so I don't mind.
Yeah, Shannon's like, take all the time you want. It's so easy to edit out dead air. You take as much time as you want. But I'll buy you time though. I just put this. I posted this a little while ago, and people seem to like it. I want Edgar Wright to remake the abominable Dr. Phibes. I would love to see his version of that.
That would be so fun.
I mean,
I would definitely love that.
The list of 60s and 70s like Hammer and Amicus and AIP movies that I would love to see remade with, you know, contemporary directors is just like, it goes on forever. Just goes on forever. And I love those films the way they are.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh boy, this would be great. I want someone to just start remaking Hammer films. Same aesthetic, same everything. Just
same budget.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Like adjust it for inflation, but like what would you do with this amount of money? And you know, whoever this generation's Peter Cushing is. I think that's a great idea.
I just want to see Timothy Chalamet in Brides of Dracula. Just remake it. You know?
Why not?
You know what? I could fully get on board with that because I know a lot of people are like, fucking remakes, we don't need them. But if you put those constraints on it, if you do like not the shot-for-shot remake thing that Gus Van Sant did of Psycho, but instead like, here are the same constraints.
Yeah.
Here's the same budgetary constraints. Make this again. I think that's a fun challenge. That's super fun. Speaking of Edgar Wright, have you seen the show Marianne? It's a French show.
Is it good?
It's so good.
Oh, it's
one of my favorite like
good.
TV horror. And the reason why you if you are an Edgar Wright fan too, Shannon, you might really dig it because it's one of the few horror properties that is approached the way Edgar Wright approaches horror. Like it's fast cuts, it's very funny, but it is terrifying.
It is terrifying.
It's like Edgar Wright directed a French horror limited series.
It's going to scare the shit out of you, Shannon, in a great way. It's waiting for you. Check it out.
Where can I?
It's on Netflix.
Netflix, I think. Yeah.
Oh, I got it. Okay. Then I'm spelling Marianne wrong.
Yeah. It's with an I, Maria.
Oh, okay. I definitely came up to like something Indian, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's it.
So good.
Okay.
I'm still stalling though. What the fuck would I want to remake? I'm sure there are. I don't want to remake it, but I would love to do something like this is just where my mind went. It's probably it won't be my answer in 5 minutes, but in this specific chunk of time, I would love to do something like Cat's Eye again. Where it's just like 3 Stephen King short stories.
Yeah.
Kind of just linked together. I think it's because I just looked over here and I'm reading Needful Things for the dozenth time for the book that I'm currently writing.
I just read it.
And I was like, yeah, that would be fun. You know, and here's the linkage just to show you how truly a nerd I am. I looked over here, saw Needful Things, which I've read how many times. Love the movie. I think the movie is an underrated movie. Directed by Charlton Heston's son, weirdly enough. Yeah. But the TBS cable edit of Needful Things, because it's such a weird length of movie, they actually had to add scenes to it.
They used to do that in the 70s all the time now.
Yeah.
And I love that. All right, so sorry. So what happens?
Usually it's kind of for the betterment of the movie, and in this case, it 100% is. The TBS cable edit of Needful Things it's like 20 minutes longer, and it's so much better. I love the movie to begin with, but it's so good. They just released it on DVD. It's still not like streaming, but DVD. Now I'm showing my age. It's on Blu-ray 4K.
We're the same age, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. It's on Betamax now, but it's now available to buy. I gotta get that. It's so good, and so my mind saw that, immediately thought of the cable edit. Should I mention that trivia? I used to watch my VHS tape of the cable edit when I was growing up, and right next to that tape was my tape of Cat's Eye. So that's how I made that jump. Just in case you wanted to know the behind-the-scenes machinations of my worthless answer.
Always with you. Always let us know. Yeah.
Never worthless. Never, ever.
So we'll remake Cat's Eye, and we'll still use James Woods, and we'll actually torture him because he is insufferable now.
I love it. I love it.
Sorry, James Woods. I know you're listening.
You've got my damn
Yes.
mind spinning with these TV edits. That's how you find out that the helicopter pilot in Jaws 2 gets eaten.
Yeah.
That's not in the theatrical release.
No.
Nope, it's in the TV edit because they just
Whoa.
had it to add more. They had to pull it out.
And the comic book.
And the comic.
And
The
of course, the comic book.
Yeah.
You
You're
must
right.
read the lore to fully get the
Oh,
full story of Jaws 2.
I love
Um,
research.
Yeah.
yes. Shannon is definitely the researcher. All right. So this is where we hand you the keys to the podcast. The podcast is yours now. Please, please, please let the listeners know what you have coming out, which we've mentioned, but I want you to promote. Where can we find you? What events are you doing? We want to see Natt Cassidy everywhere.
Well, most important right now is please pre-order my books. Oh God, I beg you, please pre-order my books.
Done.
When the Wolf comes
Done
out,
and done.
thank you. When the Wolf comes home, it comes out in April of next year. But pre-ordering is the most important because it tells bookstores how many copies to stock. It tells
Matt,
reviewers.
does it matter where we pre-order from? Because
No.
that's important. Does not matter.
No.
Okay.
It does not matter. I mean, if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, there are certain bookstores that maybe have that are bookstores that the New York Times bestseller list counts. They're like Nielsen boxes, but for bookstores. They keep that list pretty opaque. I think like maybe Powell's is probably one of them. Maybe the Strand is one of them, but I don't know. I don't know if anyone really knows. So sometimes, like if you really wanted to pick a place to order from, one of those like more prominent brick and mortars is great. But ultimately, the numbers are all kind of feeding the same thing anyway. Yeah, ultimately, no. Just order it. Just order it. That's all I ask. It's so important. And this is the first book on a new contract for me, so like it's also going to tell my publishers if I'm worth keeping around. So I've got that. If you can't wait until April, and you shouldn't wait, because I'm also really excited for Rest Stop. I've got this novella coming out with Shortwave that I've been describing as Gerald's Game meets Green Room. It's kind of a locked room, extreme horror, kind of splatter punky sort of thing that I'm very excited for. Shortwave does amazing work. You can see it right there. Strategically placed, because that's coming out soon. That's coming out in October. And that's, if you pre-order multiple copies of that, you're helping out a brilliant indie publisher.
Which we love. Love
yes,
supporting the indie publishers.
Yeah.
Big time. And Shortwave does incredible work. Aesthetically, artistically, like they just do really, really great work. I'm very pleased to be associated with them, as with Tor Nightfire. Like I've just kind of lucked out with both of my homes at the moment. And Shortwave also has a couple of short stories of mine. If you like short stories, they're available as chapbooks, which you can buy as like individual little bound things, or there's a Kindle edition where they're just grouped together for just a couple of bucks.
I want those chapbooks. I love
they're
that.
Gorgeous. Yeah, they're really. I would show you, but I'm out of them. I've sold them all.
That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Good problem to have. I need to buy more.
Great thing.
Those are the biggest things.
What
right
about
now.
events? Where can we find you in the area?
I'm doing a thing in. There's something called a Horror on the Hudson. I think I might be getting my not pronouns. What are those? My prepositions. Might be getting my prepositions wrong. If it's Horror up the Hudson or what. I forget. But that's going to be in. That's like November 1st, I think.
Ooh,
you just got to travel up that river, man. And it's going to be great. Everyone is going to be there.
How about a beautiful drive that time of year? Go see
beautiful drive.
Have a beautiful drive.
Take the Metro North. It's a great train ride. Just sit and enjoy. So that's early November, like November 1st. There is also September 7th. I'm blanking on the name of the town because I think it's Farmingham or Framingham or Farmingdale or Framingdale. It's a combination of those letters.
Okay.
FARM or FRAM in Massachusetts. That's going to be great. The Spooktastic weekend.
Nice.
So that's September 7th. A lot of great people will be there. Then a couple of days after that, I'm lucky enough to be doing Rachel Harrison's book launch for
that's great.
So Thirsty at Books Are Magic. So that's
Get
September
out!
10th. Yeah.
Oh, well,
it's gonna
I'm
be so
going
fun.
to come to that.
Please do,
I'm gonna
and get a copy of that book because that book is
Books
great.
Are Magic. It's the best. I love it.
I love it. I love that store. And doing something in Doylestown again in Pennsylvania at the end of the year for Brian McCauley's Candy Cane Kills 2.
Oh, shit.
That book launch for then. That'll be like December 20th, I want to say.
Oh,
Okay.
fantastic. We got something
and there
every
are-
month with you.
Yeah. And I think there are some other smaller things too, or maybe not smaller things, but things I'm just not remembering. If you have not noticed, I speak and run on sentences, and my memory is not good. I did a lot of drugs at a formative age. So
I don't know anything about that.
Me neither.
Wrap that up, Janet.
reputable organization.
All right, that's fantastic. All right, so what I'm going to do is in the show notes, I'm going to put links to all of the fantastic places we can buy your book, and I am going to research your events, and I'm going to put that in the show notes as well. And this has just been fantastic. I cannot thank you enough. We've been looking forward to having you on for ages, and it finally happened.
Pleasure.
Now
Anytime.
we're getting you back.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.
I no joke. You sent that list of movies, and I was like, I would do all of these. Like, let's just do them all. I love talking about movies.
We're putting our okay. I may if you don't mind, I may ask for your help because Shannon and I are just about to put the list together for 2025.
Ooh.
So because you love foreign horror, international horror, we're coming up into our international horror. You're a part of it. You know, we're going to do your episode, but I might say, hey, can I pick your brain and shoot me a couple of suggestions? Because that's my bag as well. Love international horror.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, cool. All right, Shannon, take us out of here. Nat, thank you again. This has been
Thank you both.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Such an honor. All right, Cinners, and that's a cut.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, you just listened to the latest episode of Sinful Cuts. We hope you enjoyed listening to it just as much as we enjoyed making it. If you did, we would be thrilled if you'd head on over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave us a rating and a review. We take them seriously, and we check them all. They go a long way toward not only making the podcast better, but also to get the word out on Sinful Cuts. We're also on YouTube. We would love it if you'd subscribe to us over there. Then you can watch our sweet little faces as we do what we love, talking about horror movies. Until next week, when we're going to have a brand new chiller for you, please put kindness out into the world and get your scare on.